you all.
Hold on, wait for it. Let's put this on next step, That's no fun.
Can I invite everybody to come forward, maybe by rows and back? For those that are, for whom it's easy to get up and move around a little bit, I can do these. And if I can get you all kind of back here, okay. It's kind of like exchanging things on Tuesday. You can do that way. This is what the music should be about. I guess I didn't want to do it. Jacob, you don't have to move a muscle. It's amazing. So, I'm going to start with a riddle, and I'm going to ask about the value between dollar and a button. Which would you choose? If I stuck out my hands and offered you either, which would you choose? Smart man. Anybody want the button? Mission. I'm going to start with offering this button. The reason for that is, well, we've been talking about stewardship, reading these books for a while now. We went on that fantastic retreat in Michigan. As many of you may know, we read this great book, Real Good Church. This other great book, Good Great Home. And in both of these books, they write about stewardship. And many of the parishioners in those congregations shared during those churches' stewardship drives, time frames, consecration Sunday next Sunday for us. They shared in a very specific, detailed way how much they gave. So one gentleman in Real Good Church goes to the lectern and shares with the congregation that I'm a single guy. I'm 50-some years old. I make $85,000 a year. And I've challenged myself to give $8,500 to this church. Another person steps up and says, we're a family of four, my wife and kids and I. Our combined incomes are $52,000 a year. We give $5,200 to our church. A young couple comes up, they're in their early 20s, just out of college, just really wanted to get a job, and so our combined income, which was really just sole source of income, was making $22,000 a year. The first budgetary line item we think of is our church. We give $2,200 to our church as part of our pledge for stewardship. I'm thinking, wait a second, is this the Book of Mormon or Real Good Church? Really? 10%? And I thought I was generous to this point with us. Not so much. So we talked about this in the book studies downstairs, and we talked about it further in the retreat. Tracy Shima said something to me, to us, in the retreat, shared a story. That's the button. She shared a story about a lady in a church who didn't have any money to give. She was literally penniless. She looked about herself as the offering plate was being passed around from pew to pew, and she noticed on her coat there was one button just dangling. presumably a miracle, probably cold out. She probably needed that last point of fasting, kept her from the chill. She left church that morning, but she plucked it off and put it in a plate as it came to her. That image has been with me ever since. I can't shake it. I think about it almost daily. I think about that lady daily. Sometimes I close my eyes and I imagine that lady as being my mom. I won't bore you with my whole life story, but suffice to say, we grew up poor. Not in abject poverty. I don't want to overstate this. We weren't dirt poor, but by any American cultural standards, we were so lower socioeconomic status. Single mom, no dad in the house, 4 boys, 2 jobs, public aid, which I don't think was legitimate. I think folks were supposed to be working, but the best she could. She didn't give the button for a coat because she didn't go to church. We didn't go to church. We weren't church. Okay? So I started thinking about that lady and imaging my mom as though my mom had gone to church, if she had gone to church. And I started wondering about that lady, and I guess really all people, and I started wondering why she gave that button. Is it guilt? Like, is the plate went around from the pews, from person to person, and she realized I don't have even a penny to give? I've got this. I don't think it was guilt. I think it was love. So then I thought, well, what do I give to us, our church? And if you'll indulge me further, I thought I would read to you what I wrote. I'd like to read to you 2 things if I may. One I wrote a year ago. It was a year ago this past May 2014. And it was a blog exchange I had with Brandon. As many of you may know, he blogs. And you ask him, well, what is that? Can you do that? You just write that. That's blogging. So Brandon has this cool blog, Apavaga. And I'm reading his stuff, and I'm really turned on by it as I'm reading it. And we had an exchange in May of 2014. And Brandon's blog was amazing, as they all are. But here's the gist that caused me to riff on it in terms of what I wrote back then. So the excerpt from his blog, and the title of it was, and I think this is fitting, Church Beyond Belief. So early on, he writes about a couple of guys that walked into a pub in Dublin, Ireland. Turned out it was a church. Another part of the passage he writes about a couple that saw an abandoned garden, a garden, a peace garden, an abandoned city block in Philadelphia. Turned out that was their church. And then he writes about a more conventional image of church. Hypothetical and generic, but he writes, it's Sunday morning. 2 women, neighborhood friends, walk into a church building. Perhaps it has a high steeple and a cathedral-like interior. Maybe it has nice carpeting. It looks more like a mall with a little coffee shop in the entry area. The band is playing praise and worship music. As people wave their hands in the air and sway. Perhaps a Bach organ tune is flowing from the pipe organ. The women find their way to a couple of comfortable chairs toward the back of the sanctuary and sit down. Nobody greets them. Nobody says hello. The women realize that this place looks like church. It doesn't feel like it. So what do I write back? A man walks into a church with his wife and 2 sons. A church he's heard of through good friends he has grown to know and love, admire and respect. He had previously heard their church described as small but mighty. He had previously heard his good friends talk about their new pastor, his sermons, his approach, his friendliness, his teaching. His older son was enticed by the lighthearted, "You'll like him too because he's buff." Yeah, that came from Tracy. For his entire adult life, back to the man now. For his entire adult life, he was the big event only church attendee. Easter, Christmas, baptisms, funerals. Sensing that he was not a religious person, he did not feel comfortable attending, but that he fit in, belonged. A pagan among parishioners, an agnostic among believers. Recently, he had attended the local church only because his elder son, now 16, had admonished him and his wife for their infrequent attendance. When there, he paid attention and listened intently to the sermon. There were parts of the creed that everyone recited that he could not bring himself in good faith to join. He wondered to himself, how could there be only one holy and apostolic church? He prayed silently during communion and recounted the names of his many loved ones. His wife, his sons, parents, siblings, grandparents, cousins, and then close friends. That was meaningful. Query whether he would have done so otherwise. But generally he had that feeling. Generally he always felt as though he had checked off a religious to-do item on a figurative box of obligatory commitments. He put the money in the offering plate, but not from the heart. And he did not give generously. He was not inspired. He was not moved. He was not eager to return. Then, he stepped into his friend's church. It was different and effective. He sensed it immediately. He dipped his toe in inspirational waters that day. For whatever reason, he was not quite ready to dive all the way in. Considerable time passed before he returned. When he did, again with his wife and 2 sons, he was greeted warmly by that same pastor. A great smile and a friendly and well-placed jab. Hope to see you again before another 9 months pass. It was a wonderfully lighthearted and guiltless way of letting him, the man, letting him know that A, the pastor had remembered the man's one and only attendance many months before. And B, he wanted to see him in church, this church, more often. The man was touched by that and spiritually moved during the service. He felt it. It was real, almost tangible. He was inspired to return. He attended a book study after service that Sunday, the first of 6 total, and grew to appreciate both the intellect and heart of the pastor during those sessions. He realized that here was a man of God who seemed exceedingly well versed not only in Christianity, but in the other great religions and philosophies throughout human history, and who explained historical contexts the man found comprehensible and reassuring. He announced to his wife and boys that week that, for the first time in his life, he was eager to attend church, this church, and shared that he felt inspired by this pastor, this teacher. He was struck by the teacher's authenticity and genuineness, how he, like a great coach or educational teacher, could affect people in ways others cannot. A rare gift. He read the book that had been chosen, reread it, studied it, looked forward to the Advent book study discussions. He returned to that church the next week, and the Sunday after, and again the following week. He found the people so welcoming and inviting, just like his friends who had led him to their church in the first place. Their church, now his church too, our church. Amen. Now that was a year ago, and that's a copy and paste from our blog exchange. This, if I may, is from last Sunday night, after Robin inspired us. She spoke so movingly about stewardship, what it means to her. I'd like to begin, before I read you my poem, I'd like to begin with a quote from Mother Teresa. It's not how much we give, but how much love we put into the giving. It's not how much we give, it's how much love we put into the giving. So that was in my heart. This last Sunday night, I wrote this poem. It's entitled Sunday Home. With apologies to both Robert Foster and Dr. Seuss, this is my attempt to feel poetic. Why do I come here to church on Sunday? Why do I give? Why do I pray here in church on Sunday? How might I live? Have you heard Brandon preach? Have you been moved? Have you heard the choir sing? Have you been soothed? Did you exchange peace with Elaine? Did her hug welcome you home? Did you share a laugh with Jackie? Did her smile light up the room? Have you met Brent yet? Have you peered into his eyes? Have you met Kent yet? Have you gleaned just how wise? Did your tears flow when John told his prodigal son story? Did your heart melt when Tiffany sang with angelic glory? Were you here on Sunday when we laid hands on Sarah? Were you here on Sunday when Rob stood up to share? Have you seen Will's children? Have you played with Preston and Carolyn? Have you been delighted by Keiko's kids? Salem, Austin, Weston. Were you here on Sunday when Roger and Aaron baptized Alex? Were you here on Sunday when baby Max was introduced among us? Have you listened to the liturgy spoken by our youth? Have you listened as their young voices provided living proof? Did you see when Kira and Sarah presented their confirmation stories? Did you hear when Cameron shared his joys and worries? Did you read a book or two for Advent? Did you learn about stewardship from Robin? Have you chatted with Lois, whose energy flows like a river? Have you talked to Joy, whose very name delivers? Were you here for Christmas Carol and Grinch? Did you notice how those pageants were such big hits? Have you met Tracy's young gentleman, Joshua, Jack Henry? Have you heard Jared play the piano? Have you met Kenny's children, Stephanie, Mikey, and Michelle? Have you talked to Gary's daughter, Nicole? Have you met Sandra's young gentlemen, Jake and Tristan Michael? Have you held the Treyu or seen his dad, Nick, play guitar? Have you you seen Sonny smile remind us that she's never very far? Did you know Bill was funny? Or that Tack is a cool cat? Did you know that George is a sensei? And that Russ is all that? Were you here on Sunday when Marcia Izumi shared her mother's love? Did you weep on Sunday along with her and with God above? Have you been to Theology Club, St. Landra, and shared a meal? He had sake with Gary in his kitchen. They don't sale. Have you been encouraged by Pat, the liturgist, and stepped outside of your comfort zone? Have you been encouraged by Chelsea, to play the Grinch, and then stepped into a fuzzy green dream tone? Were you put at ease on Sunday by the exchange of peace? Are you enchanted each Sunday by everyone you meet? To each of these musings I say, I have, I did, I am, I give. So, I come here to church on Sunday because in the presence of God, we are never alone. I give to try see in each way because the mustard seed has been sown. And I pray here in church